Oh man, we got our Pickems again around the corner. Stockholm 2021 is just a matter of days away, and the Pickems have dropped, and what a glorious time it is. It feels like forever ago since the last Pickems, because it's been forever ago since the last major, and really since the last proper LAN. So there's a lot to be excited about, there's a lot to get hyped for here, and as is tradition on my channel, as I've done throughout the previous majors, we're going to do the Pickems. I'm going to go through the whole thing, through the challenges, and onwards through group stage, champion stage, and all of that goodness. Additionally, I've put a wager on this, which I'm definitely going to end up regretting because I'm terrible with spicy food, but I wanted to put a wager that I could actually follow through with that wouldn't potentially kill me, hopefully. So if I don't get a diamond Pickem trophy, then I will be eating Carolina Reaper peanuts live on stream. I am so bad with spicy food that is going to wreck me. So I have even more motivation and incentive to make sure I nail this as best as possible. So I've been getting a little bit keen with this. I've been looking at all the results. I've been like really getting down to the finer details. Additionally, the other caveat is that obviously the main storyline, or at least one of them coming into this major, is that there's a lot of teams and a lot of players that simply aren't LAN proven. Not just major or tier 1 event, like not even really LAN proven whatsoever. So that is going to be definitely a point that I raise a couple of times throughout this video, but it certainly affects some teams more so than others, and additionally maybe pushes some of those teams that, even though on paper they haven't been playing the best Counter-Strike, they have the experience that could make up for that and potentially getting them across the finish line. So with that out the way, as ever, let's kick off with the 0-3 pick first. As I see it, there's 4 teams that are more likely to 0-3 than anyone else, and those are Godsent, Renegades, Tyloo, and Sharks. Those would be the 4 choices in my head. Now, because we have the initial lineups and the initial matchups, pardon me, for the first day, it gives us a little bit more information that we can actually play off. Some teams have got a pretty rough first draw. So Astralis against Copenhagen Flames and FaZe against Spirit go on at the same time. ENCE against Godsent, Entropic versus Pain. Big take on VP. Movistar Riders go up against Renegades. Heroic against Tyloo. And finally, Mouse will face Sharks. So off that basis, it gives us more of an understanding of what we can kind of expect. Some teams that I may have put in the 3-0 spot, I'm not going to, because their first game is actually, for me, more of a coin flip. And keep in mind, all of these matchups are best of 1s. It's only the decider matchups that are best of 3s. So with best of 1s, difficult teams going up against each other, I think that does slightly alter and change who you put as your 3-0 or potentially 0-3 picks. So the 4 teams that I see potentially going down. Godsent, Renegades, Tyloo, Sharks. The first game that Godsent have, they're against ENCE. I think ENCE should smoke Godsent more often than not. I've had a chance to cast Godsent a few times of the DreamHack Open events, and they've looked okay, but they're going through a transitional phase as it stands. We even have Taco like kind of AWP IGLing, and he's not been bad by any stretch, but I do question if they have the firepower to carry them through to the next stage. I think ENCE should take them down in that first game. Renegades will be up against Movistar. I think this is a winnable game for Renegades, to be honest. Movistar have looked sharp, they've looked good, but at the same time, I think if you're looking at a team that is one of the least favored to go through, having Movistar as opposed to like a Heroic or a FaZe or an Astralis is definitely a better draw for Renegades. Therefore, I'm removing them from who I think could 0-3 because I think there's a chance they could take the first map. Tyloo go up against Heroic in the first game. That's a brutal game to play. That's one of the hardest that you could have possibly drawn. And then Sharks in their first match will be going up against Mouse Sports, which is another difficult game. But what I've seen in the past, I got a chance to cast Tyloo actually at the Asian RMR and a chance to cast Sharks at the South American RMR, where they took down Bravos basically to get this spot. Tyloo look like a little bit more rough to me, and I don't have a great deal of faith with them getting out in any wins. If they had like a Movistar in the first game, or they had one of the weaker teams, maybe in a best of 1 they could feasibly do it. Against Heroic, I just don't see it happening. I see them getting hammered, and for that reason I think Tyloo are my favorites to go 0-3. In the 3-0 side of the bracket, there's a few teams that definitely have a good chance here, but because of how this works, if you guess a team to go 3-0 and they qualify for the next stage but they lose a map, you just it's null and void. So I almost feel like going for a gamble pick as your 3-0 may be a better idea, and then locking in the teams that you're sure will advance instead is probably a smarter and wiser choice to pick up more points and to get yourself the W. So for that reason, I'm going to go for more of a gamble pick as my 3-0, and then I'm going to go for teams that I'm pretty sure are going to make it afterwards. So for my 3-0, based off the initial lineups, I've gone back and forth on this so many times. I wanted to go FaZe or Spirit. They're playing against each other. So I think that kind of cancels itself out. I was thinking of going VP maybe, or maybe even Big. They play each other, kind of cancels them out. So I have to look at a team here that has a fairly decent first matchup, and I think could feasibly just run away with this and actually take it down. But also, if they're having a bad tournament, could get knocked out. And for that reason, I'm going to go Entropic to be my 3-0 team. I'm going to go Entropic because first off, they're against Pain in the first game, and I genuinely think that they can beat Pain. I think Entropic have the firepower, and I think they actually have enough experience on this team to potentially take down a lot of these teams. But additionally, this is a gamble pick, as I said before, because I want to secure my positions for the teams that I'm fairly confident, like 95% sure will actually make it. So in order of how likely I think they are to make it after this, I think we go for FaZe. Way too much firepower, experience. They've got older heads on there. You've got the likes of Twists, of course, who's just going to be fragging his mind out. Brokey's really solid. Under the tutelage of course, Carrigan, who himself can actually sometimes be a fragging IGL. We're going to go for Mouse Sports, Heroic, and Astralis. I think these teams kind of pick themselves. Heroic and Mouse Sports are just too good to get knocked down here. I additionally think that although Heroic may have some wear and tear, and I'm not going to get into the whole, you know, situation that they're going through right now, because I just can't be bothered with the drama. They may be going through some of the mental wear and tear, and it may show itself a little bit the major, but I could also absolutely see them use that as fuel and as a catalyst to really prove a lot of people wrong that have been doubting them and accusing them of things. So this could be an unbelievable performance from Heroic, and because they have Ty Lue first, I think, no disrespect to Ty Lue, but that's got to be a 1-0 start for Heroic, right? And that puts them in the best possible stead to step forward. Next up, I'm going to go for VP. Kind of similar to how I feel about a team like FaZe. I think you look at the firepower they have, the James, the Kindars, they're just way too good to be in a position where they're going to struggle and potentially get knocked out. I don't see it happening. Yes, they're against Big in their first game, which could potentially be a banana peel. But overall, I have full confidence that they're actually going to get this one done. I could see them being like 3-1. They may drop a map depending on what happens with the draw system. But for the most part, I expect them to come through this fairly unscathed. Ents have got to make it as far as I'm concerned. They've looked fantastic recently. And if I just bring up their results recently as well, a win against Fun Plus Phoenix, all right, Complexity, Astralis, G2, Vitality, Mad Lions. Like, they have been on a tear this last few weeks. They've been unbelievable. So you look at that and you think, geez, like, if they take even a small slither of that form into this tournament, they should be breezing through this. The question is, though, and this is a team that I definitely think this narrative, this rhetoric has to pop up. Hades and Spinks in particular are two players, pardon me, in this team that are less proven when it comes to LANs. When it comes to tier 1 events, when it comes to majors, these guys may not bring the same level to these games. I hope they do, but they may have a bit of an off sort of tournament here. It's hard to say, it's hard to know. If they play the same level, Ents are going to breeze through this group stage. I actually think that, oh, I should say a challenger stage, because the next stage is the group stage. They should breeze through the challenger stage, and they'll 3-1. They could even potentially 3-0 it. To be fair, do you know what? I'm going to make a change here, and I'm going to have Ents as my 3-0 team, and Entropic take their place instead. I actually think that Ents are a bit more of a gamble pick here than Entropic are, and I think if Spinks and Hades perform, they could 3-0 it. I'm going to switch those over. I'm going to correct myself. Now, this is the really difficult one, you'll notice that I've left Big and Spirit, who are the two obvious choices and two obvious candidates to make it through. I've gone back and forth on this so much. They both have rough first games. You know, Spirit and VP, respectively, up against them. They've both had peaks and troughs, I think it's safe to say, as of late. Spirit at one point seemed like they're on the fast track to just kind of follow in Gambit's wake. I remember casting them about a year ago for DreamHack Open events where they were playing against Gambit in finals and they were holding their own in best of fives. A couple of times they got banged out on the scoreline and looked bad. There are a lot of very close rounds. Dexter, unbelievable prospect with the AWP. Yes, he is a little bit unproven, but they've got a lot of very, very good players over on that Spirit team. Mia, Magix, like these guys are the real deal. Big though, they've got Tabson, and Tabson is always such a powerhouse player. He may not be posting up the biggest stats anymore, but what he offers to Big is so huge, and he has been around for a lot longer than people realize. He is an experienced veteran player, and that kind of veterancy could be the difference between Big squeaking by in like a 3-2 and potentially being knocked out. This is so hard for me. I would have to defer to the recent performances. So if I just jump over here, we look at Spirit's recent performances, all right? They lost to Fun Plus Phoenix. They lost to Entropic. Amiga beat them. Lost to Na'Vi, fair enough. Na'Vi going to be one of the favorites for this whole thing. They're typically beating like CIS region teams, and a lot of them are tier 2, tier 3, even tier 4 teams. And even then, some of them are quite close games, or they're even getting knocked down. They lost to like Eternal Fire about a month ago. So I'm a little bit skeptical. However, you look over towards Big, they lost to G2, they drew with Furia, drew with Nip, lost to MIBR, lost to Fiend, lost to FaZe. Did beat Heroic though, earlier this month. Lost to the Copenhagen Flames, beat Mouse. Lost to G2, lost to Mouse again. I think off this basis, purely off the litmus test and the fact that there is more experience in the hands of Tabson, I am going to back Big to make it through as well. I think that they will edge out Spirit, especially if it turns out the way in my head that I think it could do, where if we said for argument's sake it was Big against Spirit in the 2-2 matchup, winner goes through, loser goes home, I would actually favour Big to take that game down in the likes of a best of 3. Best of 1s, Big typically struggle a little bit more, but best of 3s is where they really come alive. So those are my picks. We got Ents in the 3-0 spot, Tyloo 0-3 spot, FaZe, Mouse, Heroic, Astralis, VP, Entropic, and Big to make it through as my 7 teams. What do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know in the comments below. Locking that in, and I'll see you in the next video, guys. All the best.